Make sure you plug subscribing early on.
I got that on record. Hello and welcome to episode 7 of Ante Up with Dave and Matt. You will be pleased to hear that the ticker bar is back. There's hundreds of horses in there. Probably a couple that might be missed out for some people, but hey ho, there's honestly, there's shed loads in there. So that'll be going on for a long time, which is why I'm particularly dragging this section out. Just before we kick off, I thought it'd be worth mentioning this at the beginning. If you could just do me a favour and subscribe to the channel. We've still got like 70% of the viewers that are watching this aren't subscribed. It's one little click for you guys, but it does me a favour. As soon as I hit 1,000 subscribers, I can bang live content on, and me and Matt can stop recording this the night before, and I can just put it in the template, and you'll be doing me a favour. So thank you very much. Matt, how are you doing?
Yeah, good, mate. Yeah, really looking forward to this, the Christmas racing, mate. Can't wait. Absolutely buzzing.
Yes, so am I, mate. And it's nice because I'm actually excited about Christmas this year because a couple of presents I've asked Santa for I think I'm going to get. But for adults, this is it, isn't it? This is like Cheltenham's our big actual Christmas, but this is obviously actual Christmas and there's so much action coming up. So what I want to ask you, and the viewers at home will be gagged to hear this after they subscribed, obviously, is what's like your approach for Christmas fixtures? Because we've obviously been talking racing for a couple of years. We haven't really gone into depth at this time of year normally. I know what my routine obviously is. I'd be a bit balmy if I didn't, but I'd be interested to know your thoughts. What sort of things are you? I'm not going to hint anything. I don't want to give any clues away. What sort of things do you look for Christmas?
Obviously, I'm massively looking for the big shortness for Cheltenham, especially if I can have cash out on them as well. So get on them entries as early as I can. Anything that I haven't got covered for a race, but I think might run well, get that in the book, and hopefully with cash out, if it runs well, then you can form your opinion afterwards. Obviously, it's good to have a strong opinion if you've got one before the race, but if you haven't, but you think he might run well, why not get him in the book and see where you go from there?
Yeah, fair enough. And then what about where there's like multiple entries, any of that sort of stuff? Does it scare you a little bit for some of the like not the graded races tend to be a bit easier to pick, but the novice hurdles or maidens, bumpers? Is there anything you look at for them?
Yeah, I suppose you're more likely to get a run out the one you fancy if you see he's entered multiple times. But yeah, it wouldn't put me off backing one for Cheltenham if it was entered multiple times. Probably more a positive than a negative, to be honest with you, Dave.
Fair enough. Yeah, so I'm very similar with that. Definitely getting on board with horses because obviously this show's about us giving you what we class as our best bet of the week or at this moment in time towards Cheltenham. Every year will be slightly different when it comes to Christmas. Like Matt said, there'll be some horses that are blatantly going to shorten just because they're running. They're going to be short, and it's worth getting them in your book if you haven't already. Again, if you have got the cash out option, that's even better because, exactly like Matt says there, you can form your opinion after the race, which helps. For the purpose of my selection this week, it is going to run over Christmas, but I'm kind of playing it a little bit safe with the selection anyway, and I'm kind of happy to form my opinion after the Christmas period anyway, so it's not really essential for me that it wins over Christmas, but we'll come on to the selection a little bit later on. There are, however, other horses that I was contemplating putting up, but if they would beat over Christmas, they are dead. So the risk reward to the price that they're available at now doesn't really marry it up. And I know we were talking about the cash out options that me and Matt have suggested there. You guys at home know that yourselves anyway. You'll back horses you can potentially cash out, even if it's for a little bit of a loss. Hey ho, it's the way we go. But if we're putting selections up now or we're mentioning horses, I know that there will be people out there that won't bet with cash outs and won't be as vigilant. So I'm just being very mindful that I don't want to mention horses' names that I think are going to shorten. Because I could give you a list of 5 or 6, but they might all get beat. They might all be bad bets. You might lose out on a couple of cash outs, and that's not the purpose of the show. So let's carry on with the purpose of the show. The ticker bar's still going by now, I'm sure, because there's thousands of them on there. I don't think there's any spelling errors this week, but we'll soon find out. Some seriously big names that are entered up. So it's going to be difficult for us to talk about all of the Christmassy action coming up. I have got a preview coming up tomorrow with Jamie, our Irish correspondent, and Daryl's on board as well. So that's going to be decent. I did ask Matt if he would do it, viewers at home, but Matt just said off was what his exact reply was. You can see from his Christmas jumper there, we've got Grumpy and a Christmas pudding on this week. He didn't want to do it, basically. That was it. Family comes first, more important. But we won't be lost without him, to be fair. I mean, I'm gutted you're not on. But hey-ho, let's not worry about that. So basically, we're not going to be able to preview too much stuff for the Christmas period, I don't think, not because I got the other show, but it is hard to start talking about it and then to be able to stop. So we'll review last week's action. not that there was too much to really talk about. I'll chuck a couple of longer term opinions in there if I'm teed up correctly. And then I'll let you talk a little bit about the Christmassy stuff. We'll mention some bits we need to mention, and then we're just going to crack on. I don't even know what your selection is this week because I was just too keen to talk about my stuff, but I know mine's a good one. So I'm keen to hear what you think. Anyway, review last weekend's racing or what happened in the week. We had our Antepost punts, didn't we? Alone Among Millions, my horse got beat by Billaway. Not the way I wanted it round, but I don't think the ticket needs to be screwed up. Do you?
No, I think it'll be better over further. Obviously, Billaway was a good winner, but yeah, I won't give up on Alone Among Millions. Yeah, over further, I think you might see a different horse, mate, to be honest with you.
Superb. And Billaway, I was umming and ahhing a bit with Billaway the season until they priced up the Fox Hunters. You could get 10-1 request to bet with the top price. Even Gavin Lynch mentioned it on the other show that you probably felt like you wanted a bit bigger than the price that he was. So, I mean, he went and won 90, didn't he? But I still think Alone Among Millions showed enough that when they're going over further at Cheltenham, etc., further and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I wouldn't really roll that one out. But Gauloise was better for me. She went and did the job. We knew she was going to run there instead of hook up. We knew she was going to win. We know she's going to shorten up. And there's something else I want to mention after that, but we'll leave it till after you validate yours. You had
Bob Ollinger.
Oh yeah, the horse I don't really want to mention because I do like Bob Ollinger, don't get me wrong, but everyone's saying he can win the Ballymore. Come off it, surely not.
Well, I liked him. I liked him last week, mate. What more could he do at the end of the day? The hurdling was the big positive for me from Bob Ollinger last week. I don't know what else he can do. He's gone off in front, hurdled nicely, beat nothing, but job done. On to the next one.
Yeah, and to be fair, this is the point of putting the bets up at the right timing as well. We talk about timing being key. It was key. You nailed it. By the time you put the selection up, I don't think I gave you top price, did I? Because he wasn't available everywhere else. But he'd already shortened with that bookie anyway. So it's fair is fairish. That was just me being an arse because you put Bob Ollinger up. But I think I've looked at the novice hurdles myself. They're looking like they're fairly open. So you go down the list. Bob Ollinger's one you definitely need on your team sheet. You've got him on there. I'm still undecided where a few horses will be going in and around those markets. We touched on it a little bit before when we were talking in the pre-talk of it. Especially, I'm looking at the Albert Bartlett because I love to get stuck into there. It's just I'm on an hour about the two races. I need to get some selections in there, but I feel like I can hold fire on those particular races. Dusart you put up as well. Didn't run in the Kennel Gate, but that's not a bad thing, is it? Surely.
No, not necessarily a bad thing, especially with Nicky. Seems to mind his best ones, doesn't he? So I wouldn't necessarily put that as a negative. Dusart missing out there if he wasn't quite right, or if the ground wasn't quite right for him.
But my Drogo was pretty impressive, wasn't it?
He was, but is he going to go to Cheltenham? Is he going to turn up there? Doesn't sound like it's not the be and all end all this season, is it? Novice hurdles for him, so I don't know. Same with Nicky's other one, who ran earlier in the week, LaCale's article. They've sort of said about him as well that he might not, these novice season might not be the be all and end all. So nice performance though by LaCale's article, by the way. Flashed his tail a few times on the running, but he was comfortable. Although I think Nicky intimated that Cheltenham might not be on the agenda this season.
Yeah, that is right. And they've mentioned both connections, or both trainers have mentioned about that for both those horses, My Drogo and LaCale's article. So for the purpose of looking forward to Cheltenham, kind of line through them. I think it's worth mentioning Dusart as well. As much as I talked about Nicky Henderson likes to run his Kennel Gate runners to go into the Supreme, they don't normally win a Supreme, like you claim and take and Forgans and other bits and pieces in there. So if anything, it's a good thing that he didn't run him in the Kennel Gate for that perspective, makes your bet look even better. And also, when you touched on there about Nicky likes to mind his horses, we know what he did at Sandown with Altior. Don't want to talk about it too much, but the handling of that situation, the reason why I was annoyed with it was because I think I said it in our thing when we talk about it, that he's on about it, I want to mind my horses, protect all that sort of stuff, got to do what's right by the horse, and he's running all these other horses from his yard. So if I was an owner of the other horses, I'd be fuming. He got odds on favourites turned over, didn't he? And then obviously at that weekend when he runs horses at Ascot, he had some horses that were beat. I mean, not saying that they were short price favourites that were getting beat, but he didn't run Dusart, which I think is a testament to the fact of how much he thinks of him. So fair play on Dusart. There wasn't really any other racing at Ascot. There wasn't any good races to watch, was there?
What else was there? I liked Allard. I did like Allard. Did you not?
No, Allard. I'm teeing you up for the biggest race, the best race of the season.
Oh, sorry.
That was my attempt at
I ain't got to him yet. I ain't got to Paisley yet.
Oh, right,
Not got to him yet.
Do you, Allard?
Do I like? No, I just thought I like was worth mentioning. I just thought he was grade 2, chasing debut. I just thought that was impressive to do what he did. Now, Fiddler on the Roof isn't beating Fiddler on the Roof in the greatest form ever, is it? But I just thought grade 2, chasing debut, warmed into his jumping. The jumping early on wasn't great, was it? And I think to do what he did was quite impressive for Alat. But anyway, forget Alat.
But he was nice, to be fair, wasn't he? And then Simon Sigg won the race. You'd think that they'd stay away from Shishki, wouldn't you? But who knows? I don't know whether Cheltenham's his track, but it was a good performance. But again, I just wonder with some of the form from that Ascot meeting, whether some just really enjoyed the ground or the test more than others. I'd like to see him back it up. But yeah, let's move on to the real big race that I was trying to get us lured into. Because Paisley Park was put up by me, Antepost for the Stairs Hurdle. Before he ran at Newbury, I said he needs to win at Newbury to go and win a Stairs Hurdle. He got beat at Newbury. I said after, okay, well, we got the ticket on, didn't we? But need to see a bit more. The afterburners at Ascot. Jeez, that was that's what I expected at Newbury when he was 2 out. Getting there, I just looked at he's won. Like the afterburners are kicking and he's going to go past. He didn't do it. Did do it at Ascot. Go on, you give me your take on the race and then I'll bore the viewers for another hour. Please subscribe.
That is what racing is all about for me. I didn't have a penny on, and it's just what it's all about. It's just, to get up from where he did with the run he had, unbelievable. And for me, I think at Cheltenham it's only going to suit him more. And I know I've heard a few people saying that they think Time will turn that form around, but I think it'll suit Paisley even more at Cheltenham. Proper gallop. I think he's very solid, and I think you want to 7-1. I think that's solid, mate. Now I don't see Time he'll turn that around with him.
The thing we won't talk about it just yet, but we'll talk about it in a second. The Irish stuff, but for me, that Time Hill was sweating up, wasn't he, before the race, and he didn't jump like that fluently. He was a bit keen early on. And I know that Mick Fitzgerald loves the fact that he clears every single hurdle. Then you go watch him jump at other race courses. He doesn't do it at other race courses, but he had a couple where he didn't jump them that well. And I think a horse that when they jump perfectly, if they then falter at a hurdle or whatever, it can leave more of an impression on him. So the fact that he's so careful over a hurdle, I wouldn't look at as such a strong positive everyone else does. But I think for Time Hill, he sweated up. He was fairly keen early on. He did make a mistake in the race. Admittedly, he kind of got things his own way. Richard Johnson managed to ride the race to suit him. There was no sort of scrimmaging in behind. But I think that wasn't the best we will see Time Hill at Ascot. Like, I feel like with the sweating up and the keenness or whatever, I feel like he could be better than that next time out. But Paisley, with the trouble they had when they turned in, was more than enough for him to lose the race. Like, they got away from him. Aidan Coleman as well was so annoyed with himself when he saying I'll give him a bad ride, and was putting himself down quite a bit. And I mean, I backed Paisley just because I felt like he was too big a price when the money started coming over Time Hill. People would be gutted when they get so close. But when he turned in, I was just thinking, you could see Harry Skelton on Roxana was going to do that to him. But I quite like the fact that rather than getting into a barging match and thinking, no, that's my gap, and then getting the horse stuck behind a wall of horses, he tried a little bit, thought, hang on a minute, this is Paisley, I'm not going to be able to do that in an instant. And he just thought, let's just go with what I've got now. And then he went out, and then he rode his race from there and just thought, look, if he wins, he wins. If he doesn't, he doesn't. And I feel like that is just testament to the jockey and the horse. They're in sync, aren't they? He knew what the best thing to do was. I still can't believe how much he showed that pace. But it's the same as when he won his first stayers, and you see his turn of foot is just unreal. Now, when we're talking about them turning the tables against each other, Emma Lavelle straight after the race didn't sound so bullish, 100% confident she was going to go Cleve Hurdle. So she wants to see how he comes out the race. And on that ground, that would have taken a lot out of the pair of them. And they mentioned last year they wanted to go to Punchestown. They missed their chance of doing that. So I wonder whether they might wrap him up for Cheltenham. Time Hill's not going to the Cleve Hurdle anyway, so not going to get the rematch there. But one thing I will say, and I say it every year, I love the Stairs Hurdle division. Most people slag it off, don't they? They say it's like the 4th division of racing and all that sort of stuff. A load of rubbish. And it's more competitive this year, which is going to draw more people in. But the Cleve Hurdle at Cheltenham is the longest running from the final hurdle to the finish line. It's over a furlong they've got to go. So the dynamic of that race is completely different to the Stairs Hurdle when the hurdle is the closest it ever is to the finishing line at Cheltenham. So from a tactical perspective that way, the long running would suit Paisley over Cleve. And I think Philip Hobbs probably knows that as well, to be fair. Whereas the shorter running after that last flight is going to play into Time Hill's hands. So when it comes to like Cheltenham in March, as much as I know Paisley's capable of beating Time Hill, but I equally think that Time Hill's capable of beating Paisley. I genuinely think on the day, it's just going to go down to who gets the best rub of the green bit of luck.
It's difficult to have a strong opinion in it, Matt. I just think I'd just be Cider and Paisley at this point. But two great horses, and then you've got Cider Burley, Fury Road to throw into that mix. Should be a great race.
Absolutely. So that's probably a good little feeder to talk a little bit about some of the Christmassy stuff. They're all going like the clappers over there. Cider Burley. I listened to a podcast earlier. I think Gavin Lynch was on the podcast that mentioned it, just saying with Cider Burley, he's obviously gone to Christmas and been there for the Potemps, isn't he? Being ridden to finish 6th. Last year, he didn't quite make the cut. He was just saying, I hope the horse gets the right mindset that he's going there to win at Christmas and not just there to plod around in a place. Because as much as he said it like tongue in cheek, there's probably a little in the horse, isn't there? Like, oh, hang on a minute, it's just Christmas with the lads. I haven't got to try today or whatever it is.
Trot round, yeah.
So that's the beauty of it. When he gets beat at Christmas, everybody will be saying, yeah, well, that's the reason why. That's a really nice looking race. I'm hoping 6 Shooter goes over 3 miles. Not that I think he can mix it in that sort of company, but I'd like to sort of see what his level's at. Got Ronald Pump in there. People are talking about him as well. Like, it looks a fairly nice race, doesn't it? Over in Ireland, they've got a much better Christmas card fixture than we have, just because more of them are sort of driven towards it. Over in this side of the water, a lot of it, the novice chases are pretty good. Like, we'll see Shishkin, won't we? The Counter Star novice chase is decent. The King George is obviously a proper race. Christmas Hurdle's a bit poo-poo this year just because Epitap's mopping everything up. But overall, there's some like slightly more competitive racing. I'm reluctant to say too much on it because once I start, I won't be able to stop. But before I make us move on, is there any of the races over Christmas that you think is worth a bit of a mention, or anything you're getting really excited about, given the fact that you've binned us off for tomorrow, Matthew?
There's loads in there. I mean, the Irish novice chasers are probably the main one. I'm looking forward to see how they match up to take on Shishkin and Envoy, sort of as Arkle and Marsh contenders. I'm hoping they run Shishkin over Sam Crow over 3 miles as well. Because I'd really fancy him steps up in trick, to be honest with you, and he's a decent price. So I'd be looking forward to seeing Sam Crow. I'm hoping the big getaway is out again, because that can't have been his running first time. And I'll put him up for the RSA, and that looks obviously not great at the minute, but I'd like to see him again, because that can't be his running. That absolutely can't be his running last time out. Yeah, there's loads. Column of Fire is entered in the Potemps qualifier, so I hope so. Touch wood, he gets declared and runs 5th or 6th. That'll do me. But yeah, there's loads, mate. Like you say, without going into great depth, turning up tomorrow, then it's difficult to go through them all without doing that.
Fair enough. Well, I mentioned last week that because it's Christmas, I mean, we'll still get together next Tuesday, all being well, because if life gets in the way, then we won't, but we might have a better time to record it a bit earlier. We'll do probably a bit of a longer episode next week, because we'll have more to review because of the action that's gone on. So that'll be handy. But what we'll also do is, if anyone has got any questions or anything this week, send them in there. I know I get messaged by a lot of you guys on the Facebook page, which is fine. Keep doing it. If you've got any questions about injuries, all that sort of stuff, send them across. But any questions and stuff that go in the comments, if there's a handful of them, we'll go through them next week as well. Make sure we do that. Touching on injuries, which brings me nicely on to my bets of the week, or bet of the week. Fernie Hollow, the news officially came out this week. I was reluctant to talk about it in any other capacity on this actual show in terms of recording, because I feel like it's kind of like the saying, teaching your grandmother to suck eggs. I'm talking to people out here that know about Antepost punting. You would have seen the news, you would have heard the rumours, and I don't want to steer your own decisions in the way that you should be playing it, because when it's a high-profile horse like Fernie Hollow, everyone's getting excited about it, everyone's talking about it, but there will be, on a weekly basis, there'll be a handful of horses that I'm getting mentions of that aren't going in races or aren't working with all those bits and pieces, and it's where do you draw the line with it? You have to leave it to the official representatives to do what they're doing, but obviously just keep an eye on rumours and all those sort of things, and depends on your risk aversity. It depends on your position in a bet. If you've got a horse in a £5 accumulator and you've got £1,000 worth of bets, you might think, do you know what, I'll let it ride for the £5. Whereas if you've got a couple of £100 on him, your decision might be slightly different. So, I mean, all I would have said if we'd mentioned it previously before was that I've heard the same as everyone else has, and I'd have told you what I'd done, but it's pointless talking about it now. Anyone that messaged me would have got that back. So again, anyone can message me privately to do it. I know you could say, if I'm going to tell people when they message me privately, why don't I just say it now? But if you can't be asked to message me privately, then you don't deserve to hear my opinion, basically. This week, because I need to get a replacement in for Fernie Hollow anyway, sort of had this little horse on my radar for a little while. Actually, the Fernie Hollow news broke the same week that Altua didn't run at Tingle Creek, so literally I was close to cancelling the show, guys. But anywho, I've got an absolute beaut. He's shortened up a little bit from when I backed him myself, but my selection for this week is N'Golo for any race at the Cheltenham Festival. He's 14-1 William Hill. He's 14-1 Sky Bet. You can boost up a little bit with Hills if you're allowed to bet with them. Oh, mate, like, I fancy N'Golo. I think 14-1's a fair price, to be fair. I fancy him. I think he could be a good 2-miler. I know he got beat by Ballyadam, only a few lengths behind, slightly eye-catching like finishing, wouldn't he? But he was probably ridden effectively by Paul Townend then to reserve a bit to look maybe more impressive in the finish than potentially he actually was. But he was so keen in the race. I like it when you have horses that are keen and they've sort of not shown it in races before, because I feel like you can get that out of them. When they go a fast pace in a Grade 1, which they will do in a Supreme or a Future Champions Novice at Christmas, if he was to be that way inclined, I think he'll be okay with a 2 miles pace. So I think he's got a proper chance in a Supreme. You've got to think about what Willie Mullins is going to send in certain directions anyway. But I also think if they stepped up in the Ballymore, they've got potentially appreciate it for the Ballymore. But N'Golo probably could step up in trip. But I still would side more that he could be a bit of a Supreme horse. He may end up flopping in these next couple of starts, gets a nice little handicap, and then pops up in a county hurdle. So the any race price I think is worth taking. I like him, to be honest with you. I think he's a proper horse. Couple of bits of form of his that I think look quite good. Obviously, the Ballyadam thing, that was his second time in the tongue tie, so breathing could be a bit of an issue. But I don't know, slap a hood on him, faster paced race, I think will settle him down for his keenness. His debut when he won Galway Maiden Hurdle, he beat Make Good, that's come out and won the Albert Bartlett trial. He was giving him £7. Admittedly, that was over 3 miles, different trip. He beat him here over 2 miles, but still looks quite good form, doesn't it? He's had lots of those summer runs, all that sort of stuff as well. He's the type of horse that, who knows, they could even end up sticking him in Albert Bartlett. Penhill was campaigned at 2 miles, then they banged him over 3 miles and he won an Albert Bartlett. Just think, N'Golo's a proper horse. You need him on your team sheet, I think, and to back him 14-1 any race, I think is more than good value. Matthew, tell me what you think, honestly.
Yeah, no, I think that he's continued to surprise them, and I don't think at the start of the season they thought he'd be as good as he is. But the any race angle, definitely the way to go for me, because I'd personally like to see him steps up in trip. I know we spoke before. I think he did get close to Ballyadam, but I think if Ballyadam had jumped the last better, and with I think a stronger pace would suit Ballyadam as well, even more.
Yeah.
I think the gap might have been a bit bigger, but I'd like to see him up in trip. Like I say, if he flops next time out, then you've always got the handicap angle as well. So any race seems solid to me, mate. I like it.
Thank you. And with the touching on the handicap side of it, he's 138 rated. He's the sort of horse where, say, Willie Mullins were to enter him in a Christmas handicap hurdle, the whole world would be jumping on him off 138, I think. So what that indicates to me is we all think he's better than 138.
Yeah.
So if things didn't go to plan, his mark can only stay the same, if not get worse if he falters. And then I know obviously he'll get hiked up a bit for over here, but if he manages to drop himself a few pounds in defeats over there, he could be running over this side of the water in the 130s come March, which would be revolting. So N'Golo, mate, I think he's a good one. So unfortunately, Fernie Hollow is gone. It's a couple of mine that are dead in the water, isn't it? But N'Golo, he's here to save us. So Matthew, how many have you got this week, first and foremost?
Just one.
Well, it's good with this. Again, we talked about the fact that next week's going to be bumper episode. I've got a handful that I'm in an eye whether to put up or not. Next week, for definite, I'm going to have a few. I'll do a total up of how many we've put up and how many the other guys have put up to see what we can catch up with. But we'll flood you with selections next week, probably. Anyway, Matt, you need to talk. I need to shut up. Subscribe.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about the Christmas entries and how it's a good time to put one up. Mine isn't running over Christmas. There's a few I hovered over and undenied about, but my selection at the end was Albion Photo for the Gold Cup, just because I need him on the team sheet. And I just think 11-2 is a fair price for a 2-time Gold Cup winner who's only going to be turning 9 this festival. And he's won it two different ways, hasn't he, as well? He's won it staying, he's won it with speed, but there just doesn't seem to the huge love for him that there maybe should be. We know what he's going to do. He's going to run at Tremor, keep him fresh, and then go for the Gold Cup. Early doors, it looked like it would be a strong Gold Cup, but when you go down looking at the market today, going through him, I just don't see where the real threat is to him. I mean, Manila Indo's a nice horse, but the way he sort of idled in the RSA and from Champ after being that far behind to beat him from there, you've got to have question marks about him. Top of the Game was a horse I liked at the start of the season, obviously out for the season. Santini didn't set the world alight on his comeback. I know it was the omission of fences and that didn't help him, but I can see him getting outpaced with a stronger gallop this year as well anyway. Champ really is going to have to improve his jumping to be anywhere near. Lost in Translation doesn't stay the trip. Surname, you'd have to have question marks about the Gold Cup trip as well, which if he runs a nice King George, then maybe, but you still, the extra distance of the Gold Cup, you have to have question marks. Presenting purse is going to be 10. And then you get into, I know you put Delta Work, didn't you, last week, which, to be honest, I did like your 33-1 on Delta Work. It is a decent price, to be fair to you, especially with Jack Kennedy back in. But he's going to have to improve his jumping as well. Yeah. And then you're getting into ones that have been tried and not been up to it. Bristol, Demai, Clanders over, who's not going to run Native River past it now. So he went off 10-3 last year. I just think 11-2 now before he runs at Tremor, which things might have changed a little today with there's talk that Monolly might go there now, isn't there? So it might not be as easy a task as it might have been. But to be honest, even if he got beat by Monolly first time out, it won't worry me. I think it's all about the Gold Cup. And the way they've campaigned in the last 2 years, they're not really interested, are they, until it's the big day. I just think 11-2 is fair enough, mate, for a 2-time Gold Cup winner, and we know how he's going to be campaigned and went off short last year. He'll go off shorter than 11-2 this year. Yeah.
I like it, mate. I love Album Photo as well, and I agree with you. Does not get the plaudits he deserves as a 2-time Gold Cup winner. You're right as well to put him up now. Like, you look at Sigurd when you put him up, he was 6-1. He shortened into like 4-1 before he'd even run in the time. Like, timing is everything with these horses. Now, the Gold Cup picture tends to be a stronger book. The bookmakers know their liabilities can be stronger, so it takes a lot more to move the prices of them. But as you touched on, the horses in and behind him, look, Santini, even if he went and won a King George, which no one's expecting him to go and do, he got beat at Aintree, didn't he? I know the mission offence, all that sort of stuff. And he did run really well and he was close enough last year, but he's 2.5 points bigger than a 2-time Gold Cup winner, and people are slagging him off in a King George. So you wouldn't want to be putting him up or taking a punt on him. He's only going to get bigger in price, you'd think. Manella Indo could go and win the Savills Chase, but there's no foregone conclusion, is it? And like you touched on with the RSA, the stamina thing, like we know that obviously he stays, but it was that there, wasn't it? Like in a bit of a battle with Allaho. Yeah. Didn't seem to want it as much, maybe. And whereas in the Albert Bartlett before, he was a bit clear, didn't have to get into a battle. So a Gold Cup furious pace. Has he got the balls for it? Well, guess we'll find out at Christmas. Champ will be slightly interesting. The fact that they've put Santini in here almost makes you feel like they're thinking, right, Champ's going Cotswold Chase. Santini, you can go second in command. You can go King George, probably Denman Chase. I thought Denman Chase would have suited Champ, but again, not really going to shorten up, is he? The only one I could probably see shortening up significantly, but I don't fancy him to win the King George, is if Lost in Translation for whatever reason, Haydock was too slow for him when at the ground. They fancied him for the King George last year and he was just woeful. If for any reason they can get him right for King George and he won the King George, which I think he possibly could be capable of, not that I'd be backing him at 16s could shorten up, but there's a lot of water under the bridge for that to happen. And then, like you say, surnames, all that sort of stuff. So if anything, he's going to look probably more of a solid favourite after the Christmas action, I feel, when you get something like Wait and Page and you go and dot up in a King George, you get Delta Work go and win a Savills Chase, and he goes into 6-4 fab. But I just think like his price is pretty secure. And I also think Monolly going there, as much as he wouldn't be shying away from a challenge, really, let's be fair. And he's beaten all of them anyway, so it wouldn't really bother you. But when he goes and runs in that Tremor race, and Monolly's obviously been prepped up for this, and then it's going to be delayed to go there. I mean, it's only New Year's Day in it, but imagine when he trounces Monolly, all of a sudden then goes short, doesn't he? So I think it's the right time to get him in. I like Album Photo, so fair play to you, boyo. We've got two winning selections this week, apart from Dirtwork wins the Gold Cup. So definitely just one from you this week.
Just one this week. Yeah.
I think is it New Year's Day he runs from all?
Yeah.
So it like so kind of is the Christmas period, isn't it? Let's be fair. But if he goes up against Monolith or whatever, then fair enough. The other thing that's key with the timing of it as well, I personally think, is he can't get any bigger over the next week. But if there's a couple of shocks in the Savile Chase and the King George, he could shorten up a bit. And that 11-2 that's available with a couple of bookies, Sky Bet William Hill, will definitely be gone. So
that's it. It's not like there's a David. It's not like there's an Envy Allen coming through this year for me. If there was, then I think 11-2 would probably be like a fair price. But I think that's still big enough with the one. He's either beaten them before, or they've got question marks to coming out of the novice season. So I think 11-2 is more than fair.
Beauty. So that wraps up the selections for this week. I will give us a running list of the ones in there. I don't know if I can be bothered to update their current prices. I'll do that next week. But next week will be more a bumper episode. Again, if you stayed this long, congratulations. You can have a £300 bet. Subscribe to the channel. Comments if you've got any questions for next week, we'll do that. Next week, we'll do a bit more of an effort. I'd like to know what you guys have got your eyes on over the Christmas period as well. It's handy for the other people that are maybe reading the comments to see what you guys are thinking. As I say, I don't want to be mentioning a handful of horses I've got an eye on, just because that would be a separate show, I suppose. And also, it's a completely different way of playing it. These bets, we are happy to ride the whole season. We're not looking at these bets as cash outs at any point. They're going on. We feel like they're solid enough bets at the time. And Ngolo, I can't believe he's going to absolutely bolt up. I wish they'd bring back the days where you could run a horse in multiple races, because I think he'd dot up in all three of the novices. But imagine you got paid out 3 times if you backed him any race and you went and dotted up in all 3. Up the Ngolo, I think, is about it. Anything to finish off with, Matt? Merry Christmas to the viewers, I guess.
Yeah, just Merry Christmas. And I'll get well soon to my mate's been not very well with COVID this week and real badly. So get well soon, Max.